Hi everyone, welcome back to Transfer Daily Extra. Now, trust me, I really wish I was up by that TV with Robbie right now, breaking down Raphinha, how he fits in the team, and I'd planned so much of it in my head for nothing because it looks like he's going to Chelsea, and it's a real shame because this is a player that, I'm not going to go back on it now, I think he could have been perfect for our front line. I think he'd have really helped to get the best out of Saka and Martinelli, make sure that they still get game time, but they're learning off a 25-year-old who's been doing it in the Premier League, who is a Brazilian international. Actually, you know what, I'm not going to keep saying all these amazing things about him because he's off to Chelsea, but I think he would have been great for us. But he is on his way there. I mean, actually, at the time of recording, he's not fully made his decision, but I fully expect him to go to Chelsea. So, we can't just sit back and go, oh, well, that's a shame. We'll go into the season what we got. That's not to say we don't have terrific players, but we still need depth. We still need quality because see these players on the front? The I Like It t-shirt, which, by the way, if you want, you can go into the description and click on the link and grab your own t-shirt and jumper and all that. These players, Bukayo Saka and Emil Smith-Rowe, we can't rely on them every game. Same with Gabriel Martinelli. It's exhausting for them both physically and mentally, and we need to be giving them some experience quality that are going to help them through. Now, Gabriel Jesus is absolutely a start in that situation. It's definitely someone who is going to help, is going to step up in the big moments and take some of the load off them. But I think we need more, which is why I'm so excited by these Raphinha links. So I could sit here, right? I could sit here and say, you know what, Moussa Diaby, Leverkusen, brilliant, bring him in, that'd be amazing. Well, the other one I really like is Jeremy Doku, played for Belgium, Belgian international, can play off the right and the left, very direct player, as is Diaby. Two players I really, really like, and if I had it all my own way, I'd just sit here and go, yeah, take them. But if there's one thing Arteta and Edu have shown us in the last two transfer windows is that there's a profile of player. There's something in particular that this window is slightly different to last windows. When you look at the players that we're targeting, there's a pattern. Yuri Tielemans, for example, Gabriel Jesus, Raphinha, around 25 years old, Premier League experience, those kind of things. So, while I love the ideas of Doku and Diaby, and if we brought them in, I'd be super excited because I think their potential is fantastic. And they would be, by the way, the players I'd be looking at. I think we need to be looking more in the Premier League. And I'm going to try, because as I said, I could sit here and just list off anyone, but I'm going to try and restrict myself to the criteria that Arteta and Edu seem to be setting themselves. So let's go into it. And I'm going to start with, first and foremost, Michael Olise of Crystal Palace. Now, we've got a little bit of a player profile here, 20 years old, preferred position is on the right. He is a left-footed player. In 93 senior club appearances for Reading and Crystal Palace, he has contributed 32 goals and assists. So clearly someone who's got good output. And when he was signed by Crystal Palace, a player that they were very excited about. Now, he's not always been in and out of the team. They've actually got quite a few talented forwards with, Eze, with Zaha, and they've obviously been playing Mateta, Benteke up front. But the one thing I like about Olise, and they've got Ayew as well, who's been playing on the right. But what I like about Olise is, yes, he looks quite raw, but my word, does he have flair. He's got that really good first touch, and he looks comfortable going outside or inside, even though he is predominantly left-footed. He looks a really, really tricky, exciting player. Someone who you feel you could take Saka out of that position. You're not losing. They are slightly different profiles. I mean, right wingers with the left foot, that makes them similar. I think Olise is a little bit more direct, a little bit more of a trickster. But you don't feel like you're completely changing, the game plan if you were to play Olise and move Saka to the left. So he's someone I would definitely be looking at. The other player on my list, though, is Pedro Neto. Again, a left-footed player like Olise who, when you're talking about Raphinha being a right winger with a left foot, these two players really fit that mould. In Pedro Neto, you've got someone who, for Wolves, even though he did have a bit of a long-term injury, again, can be very direct, can be very, very exciting. Predominantly plays off the left. In fact, we've got his player profile here. 22 years old, slightly older than Olise. His preferred position is on the left wing. That is predominantly where he's played. He is left-footed. He's made 100 senior club appearances and has 24 goals and assists to his name. Now, not quite as good as Olise's record in senior club appearances, but he is definitely a player that scores goals, that contributes assists, that can be very creative. He can play across the front three. I've never really seen him up front, to be fair, but out on the right, out on the left, and playing in sort of central number 10 areas, he could definitely play there too. And I really like him. When he's on the left, he reminds me a little bit of, don't run away with it, I'm not comparing the players for quality, but a little bit the way Phil Foden plays on the left. kind of he's got the ball on his left and, you know, he can go down the outside because he's got enough pace and enough trickery. But he's also very comfortable coming inside, and he's got that balance between being the finisher and the creator. He can do a little bit of everything. I really, really like Pedro Neto. But, for everything I've just said about Neto and Olise, two players that, again, I'd love, a bit like Diaby and Doku, who I mentioned, 20 and 22 years old. It's not quite fitting the profile that Mikel Arteta seems to have set for himself. He wants to add players that can contribute now, that first team quality now, and that I think are going to take the load off the youngsters. I think he said himself in the past, you can't just rely on youngsters to get you through, which is why we're targeting players in that 24 to 26 bracket. Lisandro Martinez, I think, might be 24. So it does make sense that that is kind of the age range he's going for. So Neto and Olise, while experienced in their own way, maybe don't quite make it in terms of that ready-made kind of getting to the peak of their powers player that we're looking for. So you add that, we're talking about Premier League experience, we're talking about players that can play left, right, who are versatile as well. Who are we left with? Well, here's my third option, Leandro Trossard. Now, there have been some loose links to Leandro Trossard, better get that right, to Leandro Trossard. He's a player who I do like. I do think for parts of the season, I kind of wonder almost where he's been a little bit. Like, you know, I don't watch Brighton every week. I will admit that. Brighton fans might be able to let me know sort of what's he like on a week-to-week basis. Does he kind of go through spells of form? But he has moments, like his goal, for example, against Spurs and his goal against us, where he can be a really good finisher and really decisive and clinical in the final third. But what I like about this signing is he's kind of got that number 10 movement, you know, that guile, that really nice kind of low centre of gravity, can kind of go inside, outside, can be creative. But actually does a lot of his best work in the front three, whether it be on the left, not so much on the right, but he's done it up front as a false nine or leading the line, whatever it might be. So I think Leandro Trossard might be a good option, but if we touch on his player profile again, 27 years old, yet predominantly played on the left wing, right-footed, 328 senior club appearances and 134 goals and assists to contribute. So you're talking about a goal, well, over a goal and an assist every 3 games, which is not a bad output for him. But at 27 years old, he's definitely the more experienced and older of the players on these lists. You know, is that an age range that Arteta's willing to look at? I wouldn't think why not. What's the difference between 27 and 25, really? Apart from 2 years. But I think that is a player that might be a cheaper alternative who can also help, who can also get in the team without feeling like you're compromising Saka's role on the right too much. But at the same time, if you do want Jesus on the right because maybe he's found some form there or whatever, he played that well there for City, Trossard could play that false nine. So yeah, an interesting one. Leandro Trossard is an option. Now I'm going to go into my fourth, Harvey Barnes. There have been no links, absolutely none, but I'm tracking this one out there. Now, unlike the others I've mentioned, there could be a steeper price here. You look at the fee that Leicester were negotiating for James Maddison when we wanted him last year. They were talking around 60 million. Harry Maguire went for 80. You know, they are very, very strong in negotiation, Leicester. They're not going to let a player go for less than they want. And we're trying to get Yuri Tielemans, which makes you think, A, you know, they had aspirations to get into the top 4 as we do. Are they going to want to sell 2 of their players to their rivals? Barnes isn't in the contractual situation that Tielemans is in. So this is definitely a much more unlikely one, but it shouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that if Arsenal really wanted this player, they could go and get him. And I really like Harvey Barnes. He's direct, he's forward-thinking, he attacks you, he can combine on the edge of the area, he can come inside. Again, he's a bit more direct than Trossard, but he can get into those central areas and play the 1-2s and, you know, play some really neat, like incisive little passes here and there. The kind of things that you consider typical Arsenal, if you know what I mean. Kind of a bit like... Now, I was about to compare him to someone like Hleb, the way he used to play a little bit off the left, but yeah, maybe that's going too far. But he has got that really nice close control and that trickery and can get in beyond. So again, a player I would be looking at, 24 years old, plays on the left wing, can play on the right as well. He's right-footed in 218 senior club appearances. He has scored or assisted 95 times. So that is not a bad record for Harvey Barnes. But again, if we're going all in for Tielemans, and then you're talking, I mean, how much are they going to be charging us for both players? You're looking about 80 to 100 million for both. So yes, it would be a serious outlay on the both of them. I don't think Leicester would do both. But if we're willing to move on from Tielemans, maybe you go back in for Harvey Barnes. Now, before you all laugh at me, this is definitely the most out there one. But hear my case. Marcus Rashford. Now, the reason I've chucked him in is he had a bad season for Man United, and he's not been at his best for a while for them. And I get that. And I get, why would we want to go and get a player that's not doing it for Man United? We've seen this before, where we've gone and picked players from other clubs, but I don't think this is the same. Marcus Rashford, only the season before, had a fantastic season for Man United, was playing through injuries, was registering goals and assists across all competitions, really impressive numbers. I mean, you only got to look at his player profile here. He's got 150 goals and assists in 303 club appearances. But here's my main pitch for Marcus Rashford. Don't rule out players so quickly. Yes, they go through bad form. Yes, they have bad moments. I hear all that. But form is temporary, class is permanent. It's a thing we say around the Emirates a lot. Look at Joe Linton. You know, came, everyone knew he was a talented player, wasn't happening for him at Newcastle, struggling up front. But then they move him into midfield and he's a transformed player. Suddenly everyone's going, oh, I'd have Joe Linton. Same with Jesse Lingard. Couldn't really get a game at Man United. You know, Jesse Lingard is the best example. Was really happening for Man United. Played across the front three. Didn't really work. Goes to West Ham, where he's made to feel important, where it's kind of a fresh start, reignites his career a little bit, and he's absolutely fantastic. I don't see why this couldn't happen for Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford's ceiling was higher than Jesse Lingard's when they're both at their best for Man United. This is a player who can play on the right, but predominantly plays on the left. And when you look at the work that Arteta's done with Raheem Sterling, with Bukayo Saka, with Leroy Sané, really pacey, direct wingers. I'd chuck Martinelli in there as well. Really direct wingers who can beat you for pace with the ball at their feet, can beat you with the run and beyond, can play across the front three. That's the other thing about Marcus Rashford. You want to add depth up front. That is one thing he'll definitely bring. I just think if Man United need to do a lot of business, and we know they want an overhaul, where he might have been worth 60 to 80 million for them a year ago, might get him for 45, 50. Now, he's not my first choice on this list, I will say that, but I don't know. I think a bit of coaching, a bit of, TLC, a bit of looking after, a bit of confidence again, you might start to see the Marcus Rashford that, we saw a couple of years ago, that we saw thriving at Man United, we thought was going to, take the Premier League by storm for many years and do the same for England. So that's my case. Going to leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there are any other Premier League options. And remember, by all means, get in the comment section. Let me know what other options there are, around Europe that you'd love to see. But just remember what Arteta and Edu seem to be going for here, because that's the challenge. Raphinha was the right age, mid-20s, Premier League experienced, versatile across multiple positions. That's what they're looking for. So those, I think, are the names we need to be looking for as well. Get in the comment section if you have any ideas. Maybe a St Maximan if you could tempt him away from Newcastle. Maybe a Wilfried Zaha. I don't know. There's plenty out there. So Arsenal, let's push this Raphinha one to the side. If he doesn't choose us, go and get some other options because we need to add in that position. A big thanks. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Go check out the merch. Links in the description below. And I'll see you on the next one.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.